Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time to go over the science class, the top 10 champions in the science class as we close out the year 2022. Hopefully you've been catching along, following along. I know a lot of you have and really been enjoying them. We've already covered 4 of the classes. We're gonna do science and then mutant here at the end. And what I've been doing is I've been putting up a suggested pool of champions on my Discord server, and then people who've earned honorable roles, hard words to say, roles of respect and honor are allowed to add on champions, and then anyone on the server can vote. And it's been illuminating to see the way people played the game. I very intentionally didn't say, I want your best, war champions or your best BGs or your best AQ, because I want to know how are people playing this game. I can learn a lot from that, and I think we have. So we're going to run this down by how my server voted, and then I will also give you my own personal top 10 along the way, because I know a lot of you are like, that's cool, but I want to know what you think, Vega, and so those will be in there. You just got to listen for them, okay? Now, there are honorable mentions, and science is so strong that I think all of these champions have a legitimate argument to be in the top 10. I will name them. This means they will not be in my list nor my server's rankings. Starting number 1, Titania. I think she's just a little new, right? She's not even a featured crystal yet, but she's clearly very, very powerful. Will not be surprised if she has burst her way onto both top 10 lists as we go into 2023, because we're going to do this again in June and then December and have some fun with that. Anti-Venom. My buddy Egatron is a big Anti-Venom fan, and I used to always kind of say, like, yeah, but the problem with Anti-Venom is you got to cash in all his utility to get the damage, and he very calmly and politely pointed out, he's like, yeah, but dude, if you're cashing in all of the utility to get the damage, then that means you probably didn't need the utility, because if you needed the utility, it's probably doing the damage for you. And I was like, that's an excellent point. And then go along with those dual immunities. I think Anti-Venom's a fantastic champion. Quake is only available as a 5-star, so we're gonna treat her the way we treated Magic, which is recognize that this is truly one of the best champions in the game, and maybe would even be the #1 champion in the game. Definitely the one most likely to put people to sleep when you show her in a video. But we're not going to include her in this list, but let's at least acknowledge if she came out as a 6-star, she'd be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly strong, and definitely one of the best science champions in the game for clearing various forms of content for you. Red Hulk, outrageously strong, pair him against the Mystics. There's no denying his power. She-Hulk was a struggle for me to not have her on my top 10. When I did my top 10 and I realized she wasn't on there, I really did look for ways to fit her in. I just couldn't do it, but I do love her. So many folks don't even realize she actually has like a bit of it's not a taunt, but it's a taunt-like mechanic in her kit. Obviously, she has the immunity to poison and the slow. Oh, I love the slow. Pair her up with Mr. Fantastic. She is a great, great champion. Really hard for me not to have her in my top 10, but I need to be, I need to be honest about this. And then Joe Fixit. Joe Fixit, if I understood him better, there's a chance he would make my top 10. I don't think so. But, I learned from Infamous on his stream one day. You heavy a few times, you get your power gain going, I guess, or a power rate. I'm not sure, but somehow you get power a little more faster. If they can bleed, you hit them with the SB1. If they can't bleed, you hit them with the SB2. And you know what? Things start dying. The fact that you can play him like that and things start dying, I think is a real positive. I mean, if you fully understood him or could harness what it is apparently he's doing, you probably could get even better results. And in fact, if you feel strongly about Joe and you feel like you know how to play him, put that in the comments. Or if you're aware of a great video, a guide breaking down how to play Joe, I'd be very happy to see that in the comments section. Okay, let's get to the number 10 spot. I love that. On my server's rankings is Spot. He's not going to show up on my list, and the main reason is because I just don't know. It's too new, and I don't think he stands out as an obvious option, right? Like I've talked about how with like Gallon and Hulkling, I was in the CCP and I was like, guys, they're going to be amazing. Trust me on this. And guess what? They're amazing. I can't do that with Spot. He's just so weird. He's very unique. He's odd. My buddy who has a long history of this stuff, his name is Strands. He does have this small YouTube channel. He enjoys putting his stuff out on there. Has been talking to me, showing me videos, he's been putting it on his YouTube channel. It is very impressive what's going on. There's obviously a miss mechanic. There looks like there's some very intentional blocking. There's some nice rupture damage going on. Also a prominent member on my Discord server, Steel22, who also has a YouTube channel, has been showing really cool stuff with Spot. I know Nick136 has as well. This is kind of how it starts happening. There's really smart players. They pull them early, or pull the champion early. They start showing us some cool stuff that they can do, and then as a community, we really start to harness it. latch on. I'm not ready to put Spot in my top 10 list. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up there in 2023. He's got a very cool synergy with my girl America Chavez, so you know I'm interested in him for that. If you've got strong feelings on Spot, let me know that too. And hopefully, you know, you've checked out all 3 of those channels I mentioned. They've been really putting out some nice Spot content. For me, for number 10, this is a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit, I understand it is, but the science is just so good. Science is so good. We've got Void, Immortal Hulk, and Spider-Ham. Could not be more different. And that's what's interesting about science too. I feel like Mutant is similar in that, where they're just very different. Spider-Ham, the great sting damage, right? Dot's been showing us my boy Usafa, another phenomenal YouTube channel from 4Loki there, showing us what Spider-Man can do in all kinds of formats of the game. I've been a big fan for a while. Immortal Hulk, Buddy Lee shows us every time there's new EOP stuff and Buddy's feeling active on YouTube, that comes out, just destroying content and things. And then Void. Void feels like maybe now that we're actually here, he feels like the epitome of what I'm often talking to you about on this channel is I feel like the game is moving away from these like generalists and niche champions where you wanted the dominant generalists that could take 75% of your fights. Think of like Hercules as the modern version of that. And, you know, you had these ultra super niche champions like, let's say, Symbiote Supreme. And they were just dominant, and that's what it was. And that was the way to differentiate between them. Void was a dominant generalist. He was phenomenal for so long. And it's not that he's no longer good. It's just that the science class has grown considerably and they've eaten into what he does. In war, there's often a slightly better, more tailored option for what exactly the fight is going to require. In Battlegrounds, he's a little bit slow. In general questing, same thing, where it's like, no, you want this slightly more fine-tuned option for what it is you're taking. That being said, if you pulled Void early and you were able to awaken him, get to a SIG to a decent level, I know there's a lot of various thoughts on whether you need to high SIG or not. Maybe check out Simula's channel for a really fine-tuned conversation on that. I think you could be really happy with him because he's going to see you through a ton of content. I know for a lot of us veterans, he did for a very long time, but he's now in the number 10 spot just because I think the game has grown and you want more of these specialist champions than these generalized champions. Coming in at the number 9 spot for both my server and my tier list is Immortal Abomination. Going through this exercise has really helped me in that I really believe that Immortal Abomination has one of the best flows in the whole game. Now, I often use the term flow to describe how a champion's abilities fit together. Kind of like, if I'm just playing them, does the ability I need just kind of naturally happen? Or is it this kind of complex thing where I race to the SP3, but I got to throw a heavy before I do it. And then after I do that, I got to hurry up and get to my SP2. I land an intercept. And then maybe if I reparry once, this really cool thing will happen. Now, I understand why there's champions like that in the game, but I prefer a champion like this, right? He gets these poisons up. You throw the SP1 to get more poisons. The SP2 is going to help you get this, I think it's called the acid burn, right? And then you want to stand near with your toxic aura. You want to stand near the defender to help apply those poisons. And then when the defender hits into you, they get a weakness. It's just beautiful how it flows together. He's one of my favorite champions to play. He's someone who I think even if he falls out of the top 10 just because the game is growing, I think he's very unique in this class. He's unique in the game. And I think has tremendous value. I have mine at rank 3. I have had him at rank 3 for a very long time. If you've been paying attention to this channel long enough, you know I've been a big fan of him for a very long time. He will eventually go to rank 4 for me. It just keeps getting passed up by some of the other champions that are a little higher on in this tier list or fit a need, maybe in Battlegrounds or War that I have. But he's a phenomenal champion. And that's why he is number 9 in both mine and my server's rankings. Number 8 on my server's rankings is Captain America Infinity War. And this is another example of a champion who I think just had his role not usurped, but start to be covered by these more specialized options. Captain America Infinity War is still incredible. You know, I think he's going to get some votes for one of the best champions in the whole game. And you're not wrong. He has a legitimate argument for it. And when you add in the team aspect of it, the team building aspect of it, I mean, we can see his signature ability there. And you don't have to have him at SIG 100. I think the one that's the most important is the debuff shrugging there with the skill champions. You want that at 100. But the rest of these are going to come up. You're pairing enough where this is going to happen. One of my most long tenured channel members, Ozfan, uses Captain America Infinity War teams almost everywhere in the game, and to the best of my knowledge, he's cleared almost all of the content and does it very, very well. So this is another champion where you pull him early, and he could see you through so much. I don't see someone regretting ranking him, especially if they pull him early. It feels weird to see him down this far on the list. He is going to be higher in mine, so keep that in mind. And then in mine, as far as my 10, 9, 8, my 8th best champion or highest rated champion in science class is Mr. Negative. I know there's a lot of Mr. Negative fans, and I see this incredibly fine-tuned way people are playing him in Battlegrounds. I saw FinTech doing that in my tournaments, and I'm starting to see more people do it. And I can understand how much you're accentuating the damage. And I honestly, viewer, I wish I understood it or was capable of replicating it myself, and I would talk to you about it, but it has to do with how they're holding heavy and like the split-second decision they're making with the defender. But I believe it's letting them get up all their energies faster so they can get a more powerful SB2 quicker, get that big degen on. But here's the thing. I took him to rank 3. This was a long time ago. I know that I did war videos on it. Took him to rank 3, and that day he was assigned by for me into war, and I win him, and he owned it. The champion is phenomenal. He's incredible. I think he's someone, if you want to put the time into learning him, I could see him being a little bit higher up on the tier list, which you're going to see here in my servers rankings. But for me, the way he works, the way he goes, and I think there's other champions that kind of, they don't take over what he does, but I want like a Spider-Man 99, a true buff immune, let's put it that way. I think I've got him at number 8. I don't think that I know I've got him at number 8. I feel very comfortable with that ranking for him. I know there's a lot of big fans out there. Okay, I just talked at length about Mr. Negative as he was my number 8 ranked champion. I kind of forgot that he was then going to be my server's number 7. There he is. My number 7 is going to be the Overseer. As you know, I'm a massive fan of his. I'm a big fan of BMcG's channel. I think it just is just synonymous for me now. We'll talk more about Overseer when we get to him in my server's rankings. Okay. Number 6, my server has Spider-Man 99. And just like how I thought they were wrong with Null, they're wrong with this one too. They're not wrong by a lot, and you're going to see it in the rankings, but there is going to be a tier jump. I'll talk more about Spider-Man 99 when we get to where I have him. And for those of you who are curious, in my own number 6 rankings, my personal number 6, this is where I have Captain America Infinity War. He's just still so good, and he can do so many things. And while I do think the same thing has happened to him as it happened to Void, I don't think it's nearly as strong. And that's because of that signature ability he has and the fact that you can bring in other really high quality champions to fulfill that signature ability or to make that qualifier, to make that usable or activate or whatever term you want to use. So you can build phenomenal, phenomenal teams with him. And then he's going to do so much for you. I feel very comfortable having Captain America Infinity War ranked right where I do. All right, let's go and take a look at the number 5 champion on my server's rankings. Okay, coming in at number 5 was the Overseer, and it was a bit of a tier jump between Overseer and Spider-Man 99. I just could not disagree more on this, but that's fine. And it's not because I don't think Overseer is great. I actually think he is phenomenal, and he has one of the mechanics I love most that has, I feel like, recently introduced in the big picture of this game is he has these immunities. When something tries to trigger those immunities, and of course it doesn't happen, he gets stronger. He gets that cosmic power. If it would take, there are some tricks to Overseer, but basically you want to get into that cosmic mode or the ability to trigger it, you throw your special, then you end your specials in light. But then the amount of cosmic modes you would have gained in that can be transferred into a nice fury afterwards. So once the cosmic mode is done, it's not over. It's not over. And then remember, he's also nullify immune, which I absolutely love in a champion. It's one of my favorite characteristics in a champion, right? He's phenomenal. He's great. And it's not that I think so strongly that he shouldn't be where he's at. It's that I don't think there's a tier difference between him and the champions I have ranked around him. As far as my number 5 rated champion, it is Spider-Man 99. The power control is phenomenal with the Wither. Yes, the anti-venom synergy is helpful in initially getting him going, so there's going to be fights that you really want that for. But there's also a lot of war fights that I know we often send Spider-Man 99 with anti-venom that I've seen players in Noon take these fights, like White Mummy. He's shown me videos where he doesn't bring the anti-venom synergy and you can get to your SB2, you get your first wither up, and everything is totally fine. And also, additionally, in Fluffy Pig Monster is one of the people who really started pointing out to me, it's like, you don't even have to get your wither up, right? Like myself, Clowniest Clown, Sire from For Loki, have been playing Miguel. We've been showing you video after video after video in War, where you're just hitting the block and you're triggering what would have been a Dex to refresh your debuffs or pause them, and then you just hit the block and you get all these ruptures up, and then you make them explode, and it's great. He's also been good in questing. I know a lot of that was one of the things is like, well, once the boss node changes, yeah, that meant you couldn't just cheese a boss anymore, but he's still being brought to wars. One of For Loki's most frequently brought champions for sure. And you can use him in questing. He's fantastic. He's phenomenal. He does seem to be a little bit on the slower side in Battlegrounds, but I'm sure there'll be metas that where you still want to bring him in. I love him. And it's not just that I personally love playing him, and I had a lot of, War and channel success by showing him off for such a long time. I just think he's that phenomenal and deserving of being in this general tier here, up with the other champions I'm going to have ranked just slightly ahead of him. The number 4 champion on my servers rankings is Mr. Fantastic. Okay, I know we still get a lot of questions about Mr. Fantastic, like, why do I love him so much? Why do I like? Because, okay, the damage is not a 10 out of 10. It's not, and it's probably more like a 7 out of 10, 7.5. But here's the thing, his power control is outrageously good, and you wouldn't know this from looking at the character's model, but he becomes incredibly tanky. If you don't know what I mean, go watch some of DLL's War videos and you will see it. You will see the tankiness of this champion, and his survivability is incredible. He's got these really nice pre-fights. His buff that he got was phenomenal. It took a very good champion and made them one of the best champions in the game, in my opinion. He can put those pre-fights on for other, and that's the only reason why I'm having him rated higher than Spider-Man 99, but I still put them in the same tier, is I think Mr. Fantastic is making his teammates better. He's sometimes allowing them to take fights that they maybe otherwise wouldn't, or making those fights even that much safer. He's great. His film, the worst thing to say about him is that his heavy reach leaves you lacking or wanting a little bit more sometimes, and you do want to be heavying with him quite a bit. But he's great. I'm so glad I took mine to rank 4. He's at 6,200. I think he'll be maybe placed on defense, but he is phenomenal in War. And like I said, if you're really wondering about that and you're like, the tankiness, go watch DL's channel. These evades that he's causing, it's not just a defensive annoyance in Battlegrounds. It actually can help you a lot in offensive attacks on War as well too. Okay, and he also happens to be my number 4 ranked champion. There's gonna be a little bit of difference between me and my server for 2 and 3. So let's hop over and take a look at my server's number 2 ranked science champion. I think I just misspoke, but for my server's number 3 ranked science champion, they have Quicksilver. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Quicksilver when it comes my turn to talk about the champion, because I think he's phenomenal. I understand why folks don't like him, though. I really, truly do. And I used to kind of fall into that category a little bit myself. When his crystal came out, I was genuinely saying I wanted Gallon more. I realized how good Quicksilver could be and the potential there, but I also knew what Gallon had coming. So I get it, and we'll talk a little bit more about Quicksilver when it's my turn. My number 3 rated champion, my personal one, is Human Torch. He's phenomenal, right? I mean, there's a reason why I called Nimron the tech Human Torch. If it's a Mystic, if there's energy damage, he's going to melt it for you. He's going to absolutely melt it for you. And then the fact that he's got that pre-fight with the Nova Flames and all that just bypasses so much junk. Anytime, yeah, I know there's negatives to it. You can really only rely on it once in a quest. And, in Battlegrounds, we are seeing that in some other non-ideal matchups, he takes a little bit of time. But if that's the worst thing we can say about a champion, I think he's going to be A-okay. He's phenomenal. He's great. I don't think anyone's really going to argue that point. I happen to have him at number 3. Let's go ahead and get to my server's number 2 ranked science champion, who happens to be Human Torch. Again, no one is going to be, I think, arguing this at all. I think some people would even say he has a real strong argument to be the number 1 rated champion. He's the first one in my list, and I had him at number 3, who I think does have a real argument to be the best science champion. I think Mr. Fantastic, maybe, if you really include the team building elements, but I think Human Torch is the first one that really has that potential. Now, I normally just stay on my server's rankings for when I do my own list, but for this one, I want to go back. My own number 2 is Quicksilver. Now, I want to acknowledge and then step aside. I understand his combos. I understand that it's sometimes frustrating to use. I understand that it takes a little while. I also understand that his 5-hit combo takes more time than others. I get all of that. I think you either decide you want to get better at him, you get used to it, or maybe you just initially enjoy it, and then you do. So I just want to like, period. If you don't like all of that, I could see you having him not even on your list at all. Because if you don't enjoy playing the champion, what good does it do? Like, I never learned to play Quake because I just hated it. So that's fine. But if you're like, okay, I'm interested, let's keep talking. He is phenomenal. And I truly mean this. I truly mean this. I think he has an argument to be the #1 ranked champion in the science class because his damage output is potentially outrageous if you want to go for these huge pulls. But you don't have to. You do not have to do this. I've shown this in war videos. I've shown this in some battlegrounds. Yes, he might not get the fight over in those 40 to 50 seconds. I totally get that. But he can get it over in a minute. And so he might not be the best battleground champion, but there's a lot more in the game than battlegrounds. And also, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys are like, no, this champion, there is no single champion in the science class, and maybe in the game, that has this much utility that's easily accessible just in themselves. He does not need any synergies to do any of this. He can get up the slow. The slow causes him to also counter miss. He then can also counter non-contact attacks. He can parry them. He also doesn't get the buff from Dex. It's amazing, all the things that are in this. And then you add in this incredible defender that's very difficult and annoying to fight. I hate fighting him. And then the ability to do this damage. It really, I'm not going to make him #1. I'm not going to do it. But gosh, I will not be shocked if in June of 2023, I finally said, like, guys, I'm sorry, he's the #1 champion. He just is. But I get it. I understand all the people that don't like him. I thought I actually wasn't going to like him, but I started playing him more. I took him into war fights. And that's the thing, is a lot of people are like, well, if you missed that huge detonation, you got to start all over. Okay. So it takes you another 45 seconds. He's so safe when you play him that you can just start it over. You haven't like missed out. You've just missed out on the fight being 1 minute and 30 seconds long. Fights like against Mordo, stuff where his power, we didn't even talk about his wither. That's right. He also has a very powerful wither. And if you put points into the dexterity mastery, I think it is, it actually gets stronger. And if you get him awakened, you can get up, you increase the max dexterity wither, you increase it 3, not to a total of 3, you increase it by 3. And then I think when you at terminal velocity, you actually increase like your dex window, and dexes that were less your MSD, you just had no ability to do. You actually have a shot to do them. Like I dexed one of Dragon Man's SB2s once. I didn't want to have to do it, but it happened because he was on that unblockable special 2 node. I really love this champion. I think he's about as good as a champion in our game should be to keep the game extremely healthy. And I think in some ways, he's even pushing that envelope. I really hope that Grandmaster's Gauntlet comes back soon and that we can get rewards from it. Because I want to take him and a couple other champions who he synergizes exceptionally well. I want to take them in and see if I can use them and have a lot of fun with them. So keep an eye out for that should this come back. Remind me, like, hey, Vega, you said you were going to do this thing. Why haven't you done it? And remember I said, if we can get the rewards again, I want to go back in and do it. All right, now let's go ahead and get to the #1 champion. It's voted on by my server, and I have him at #1 as well too. I've given in because the thing is, I love this champion. I really think arguing between 1 and 2, I have them basically virtually tied. I do think that they're slightly above Human Torch. I do. If someone came in and was asking me on my stream, who should I rank up? I've got Quicksilver, Human Torch, and Scorpion. My first question would probably be is like, do you enjoy playing Quicksilver, and is he awakened? If they said yes, I'd be like, it's a coin flip between him and Scorpion. Or a Quicksilver, yeah. It's a coin flip between Quicksilver and Scorpion. If you don't have Quicksilver, then I'd go Scorpion. If you don't have them, then you go Torch. But why would you ask me that question if you didn't have all 3 of them? So there you go. He's phenomenal. I did my Essentials video on him. One thing I got wrong was I really felt like you wanted to play him with that style where you hold the heavy and you do the intercept. And that is nice. And we're seeing the really big bursts that can create. But Battlegrounds has kind of shown us, because people, I think, were forced to play not safer, but not that style. And they're getting phenomenal damage done with just their SP2, or I've used my SP1 where I really want that taunt. Then if you start putting on his synergies with Venom, and then with which gives him those Furies, and then if you put on with Toad, it gives him a refreshable slow off of his heavies. And Toad and Venom are no slouches. Those are very, very good champions to quest with as well. Scorpion is phenomenal. He's amazing. The fact that I can even have him slightly above Quicksilver just shows you how good Scorpion is. This is in addition to his shifting sources of damage and also his shifting immunities. He's really going to be helpful. Like, he and Quicksilver are just, they're so good. To me, they're in their own top tier, those two, then Human Torch, and then probably Mr. Fantastic and Spider-Man 99 grouped together there. So he's phenomenal. He's amazing. Thank you so much for watching. I see this one has gone on for a little while, but Science Champions are so good. I think there's a lot to talk about. Let me know your thoughts. What you think we got right, what you think wrong. And I'm really curious to hear how many of you, because like my boy Ozfan, how many of you are using Cap Infinity War and just still owning content? You know, Act 8, no big deal. He's seeing you through. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you keep an eye out for Mutant and you check out the rest of the ones we've done. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.